Now we propose to go to a new topic. So we are going to talk about energy. So first of all, energy is a word that we use both in science and also in our daily lives.
And
as we needed to negotiate what we mean by shuk, we also need to negotiate what we mean by nuba. So energy is something that we will not define.
The
reason is that it is very difficult to define what we mean by energy. And so we are going to approach the learning of energy the same way that we approach learning about a new person that we meet. We will learn slowly about this new friend of ours. The thing about energy that we should think about is that energy is something that objects have. We said that forces is not something that objects have. Forces is not something that objects have. But forces arise as interactions between objects. Whereas we can think of energy as the property of an object. It is not an unchanging property, but it is something that is associated with an object. So we need some preliminary ideas about energy. And so, can you give me examples of energy in our daily life?
From food, energy from food.
Energy from food. Do you agree that we get energy from food?
Yes.
So let's give a name to that kind of energy that we get from food or from fuel. We will call that chemical energy. So chemical energy then is energy that is associated with food or with fuel. With momos and with gasoline.
Tangazo tap tangi yo nangla di imbainare momo imbainare dine nubash rawora di resti.
What other examples of energy do you have?
Ta di maim be ani thanda nuba ge pesu shimba khari yos. La. Okay, thinking power. Yeah. Yeah.
Mental energy.
Yeah, mental energy.
So each of these kinds of energy must have an indicator that I can use to decide if that energy is present or not in an object.
Ta nuba di du ngobo dinalo nuba dendesh tu la jora di la la dadun chigi gugu yoras de dadun chigi khari gugu yores dadun chigi gugu yoras ta nuba di res lani. So what is indicator?
And so I cannot see chemical energy.
Zegi nuba dingi thong thugu marwas.
So I use the food or the gasoline to indicate the presence of this energy.
Ta se dinare yana gas dinare di peju chigruas ta di dinala nuba hardu tela.
So for thinking energy, mental energy, what will be our indicator?
Ta samlo tai gi nuba leira dila dugala ni di dadun chigi khari cha deores. Thanda, okay, so they need more explanation on the indicator. What is indicator?
Okay, let's talk about another example. Let's write mental energy there.
Ta pesu shimbaji shani de shi ya was dadun chigi de. Ta pe shawaina thanda samlo tai nuba le di sha was.
And we will come back to deciding on the indicator for that.
Ta samlo tai gi nuba lara di dadun chigi jora di gala an jela kyar tu yuan is.
What other examples of energy do you have from your daily life?
Ta nuba shimba khari yores khan so yundeng gi misenal da thong de jora pesu shimba khari yores di maimbe. La. Trigi nuba thermal energy.
Thermal energy, okay?
So when we pull this elastic, it comes back. So there is energy associated with it.
So we have elastic energy, which is associated with objects that can stretch or can compress.
Ta thanda gig think do di da de nu baj do digi ya the re yana ma puej do nunchir che di yores.
This is like a rubber band.
Di nganzu gig tha do ros.
So I use as the indicator of the presence of elastic energy the stretch of the rubber band or the compression of the spring.
Thanda nuba jura di gig the di nuba di thanda nganzu che je du gala da dun chegen di khari cha de la waina gig di khagas thing du yana nanglo spring di khagas thing du la jura dil ta yores di da dun chegen cha de yores.
You also mentioned thermal energy.
An keran so treg nuba lan chi shesons.
What will be our indicator for the presence of thermal energy?
Ta thanda treg nuba leira di ani keran so da dun chegen khari yores sambudos.
How do I know if an object has thermal energy?
Ta ngobo dila chadu gi nuba bonda treg nuba du la jora di ani keran so gi da dun chegen khande do yores pese khande chin la thures. Dila treg nuba du la waina khandes la thures. When we rub our two hands, we feel the heat.
So when we rub our two hands, what is it that we feel? We feel that our hands get warmer.
Ta tanda lagwani inde darwa ina sra di dardu nganzu kharit sorgures lagwani inde twero duras ra twedu sorguras.
Do you agree?
Sama metu US.
So let's use the temperature as an indicator of the presence of thermal energy.
Ta chögi nuba lejura digi ani dadun chigen dinga zo pesun ro shaw na chaje dishana digros temperature.
So we have food or fuel as indicators of chemical energy.
Ta zegi nuba jura di dadun chigen manjugita seda sama dilana digres.
We have the stretching or compression of elastic material as indicator for elastic energy.
Tanda gigda rigi nuba jura dindi indu kala tanda ngobodi khagas thing du le jura di ani ngaju dadun chigen chagi res.
We have the temperature of the object as an indicator of thermal energy.
Ta tanda dadun chigen tanda ngaju gi thögi nuba jura dila khari chadiorla na chaje di chagi res.
How about any other examples of energy from our daily life?
Ta nube gi pesun shimba ngara zu gyundeng gi misena la ani di main be pesun shimba khari res. Lo electrical energy. Electrical energy.
What indicator will we use for electrical energy?
Ta logi nuba shera logi nuba la dadin chegen khari gu res. La ondi dadun chigen khari chagi reslar. Make the meter which reads how much power is consumed.
So we can actually use the electric bill from the power company as our indicator of electrical energy.
Logi billi do haju droemedi di ani nganjo digi dadun chagi ros logi nuba.
Okay? What other forms of energy do we have?
Ani tanda shu giri gyora shimba khari yores. La mingi nuba energy from medicine.
Energy from medicine. This is part of chemical energy.
Ta mini nuba la shera mingi nuba la du khari icha she chawor la na zegi nuba di icha she chagi res. So when we throw an object, the object moves, right? So this movement has some energy.
Do you agree that moving objects have energy?
The keransola the mutu US, mutu chigi US, ngoboji yogu chigi yora, yogu chingi ngobo dil nuba yorlani. Yes, it has.
Okay, so we call the energy that moving objects have, we call it kinetic energy.
Yogu chingi ngobo nuba yore shera, and the nuba di ming la khalana yogu nuba res, kujo nuba.
And we use, what indicator will we use for kinetic energy?
Ta gujo nuba jora, dila an hanzo dadin chigen khari chagi yores. Khari meter? So we'll use the meter scale. Tende rora. We'll measure it in meters by length.
So we can measure then the motion of the object.
Ta yogu che jora, di che je yorwas.
So we can measure it, we can use the speed of the object as an indicator of kinetic energy.
Dila du ngobu du yogu chigyor la du di yokse jora, di nganzo ani yogu nuba gi ani daduen chegin chagi yorwas, yokse di.
Okay?
Seo cha suyasa di.
So the indicator of kinetic energy is the speed of an object.
Ta gujo nuba shto di gi daduen chegin di khari chagor la na ngobu di yokse jora di chagi yorres.
Bicycle moving slowly does not have as much of a kinetic energy as a truck on the freeway going fast.
Ta kangkor chi da truck chi gi yokse duru ai na kangkor di theu tang ro di gi ani gujo nuba di da ani langa kala truck tu du yo ainas khurani gi ku jo ne bata hoina truck gi ku jo ne bodi ba shukche res
a big tub of boiling water has a lot of thermal energy.
ta lugno chimbu shu je di na lo chukuma sha yo aina khurani chadu thögi ne ba juda di chimbu yo res
rubber band that has been stretched a lot has more elastic energy than the same rubber band stretched a little.
ta gikta ji cha sha ainas chik shira ma thyo ji chik di shu thyo ainas manga thengju jora dila ani gikta gi thanda nuba jora di shukche res
1 kilogram of dal has more chemical energy than half a kilogram of dal.
ta phale ji sha yo ya tuship dinde kilo chik yo che chik kilo cha yo aina kilo chik chi yo la je ni ba che res
So I'm not sure yet how to think about mental energy.
ta di seo cha ma so samlo ni ba da di gala
So we will leave mental energy here and we will see if it behaves in the same way as the other forms of energy or in a different way.
ta di ni ba di tis chiringa sha is an di shor lang zo ni ba shimba dun stai ra di da de den zo khande me di da thungu de jik ta os
So in order for us to understand more about energy, we are going to use a representation that uses our bodies.
ta thanda ni ba lan de she ge ra di ya du gala pe su ngaran zo subu pheju che is
Was there other forms of energy from the class? I'm just curious.
Are there other forms of energy that we forgot? This is a list. This is not a complete list. We can add to this list or take out from this list.
ta thanda ni ba lan ni ba rig den sten so dinala cha chang wa ju yo re lan thanda chang yo mares thandi ni ba mangbush ne be gya yo res digala ne be gya na digre ya thang na shi den ni pie ya yo ros ma tu ya yo ros
But fundamentally, we need to think about how does one get on this list?
ta ngan chu chu khari thol samlo tang gu yor la wa na di thona la chu ge di khande chu chu gu yor la jora di samlo tang gu res
How do we decide if something is a form of energy?
ta ngan chu gi tha chu khande chi tu res chik ta ngan chu pe su sha jora di ni ba re la jora di khande sla tu res
It is not because some scientists decided that this is the accepted list.
ta dende mares theri ba she sha yo adat thona thagarang di re la jora dende yo mares dende ji so yo mares thodi
It is because energy, to be energy, it needs to satisfy some rules.
khain lana ta di ni ba re la jora ni ba yung gu na dige dige chang gu yo res la ni yo res to dang ji
So, we are going to do the same way that we developed a representation for forces using arrows. We are going to use a representation of energy using our bodies.
ta ngo la ngaran chu gi shuk la pheju chi du la ngaran chu khari chuen je pheju chir la na da pheju chi ba di ro thanda ni ba la khari pheju chir la na chuen di ngaran chu su pheju chir res
The representation is called energy theater.
energy theater ta ni be khang ro la na research dinde ro jil la ge res chuen je dila
Or energy drama.
Or energy drama. Sure.
ni be tam chu ro la research ta dinde ro ji sha res ming de
Energy theater has 4 rules.
ta thanda di trodang jora dila ani shi res tim do
You, each one of you, will represent 1 unit of energy.
ta keran chu gi tanda re re khari chungor la wa na ni be gi cheshi re re chungu res
Any unit of energy is worth 1 unit
다 뉴버디 케란수 찍찍 가르 충고라나 체시 찍찍 아니 디가 충겨 레슬
In the same way that this 100 rupee bill is the same worth as this 100 rupee bill.
다나시다 디 구무갸디 린당 하가스르라나 디 구무갸 린당 찍바 차디로스
One is not worth more than the other.
딜라도 칸디 린당 체르라네 떼요 요마라스 니가 찍바 차디레스
So each one of you is going to be one unit of energy.
제자 케란조 레레 가리 충고라나 단다 슈기 단다 건다 뉴베기 체시 찍찍 충고여선 찍바 차디라 참
So I will repeat, you are energy, you will represent energy, you will not represent objects.
다 케란조 레레 가리 레라레 뉴버레스 제자 케란조 모보 마레스 뉴버 충고여레스
Objects are going to be regions on the floor.
모보 덴조 가리 레라와나 사이갈라 네 덴조도 덴조 모보 차디레스
So let's think about a specific example.
다 베순직 샤고스 디갈라
Bryce is going to send the ball towards me and the ball will slow down and stop.
Price ki polo di buni ani gela dam tang res an this tamares dam le du ani ka res di
So I guess friction is not large enough for it to stop.
dila du darshu di shuk chumbu shu shira yo samares polo di ka
Let's do this again.
I think it's downhill over there. Try super gently.
Okay. So the physical scenario is the ball is rolling and it slowly slows down and stops.
ta di keranzo nedang hari urlana polo di khor res ra khorgi ani khali ani ga res polo di
We understand the force story.
manzo nube kol dung di shingi ros
It was not moving.
kujo tangi yo mares di
To change its motion into moving, I needed to exert a net force on the object.
yogo mache yo mobo jora di yogo chejuela manzo gi shukji kya res
After I stopped touching it, I'm no longer exerting a force.
ngobo di labo macha we kapsu ngi shukje gyagi yo mares dila
But there is a frictional force which makes it slow down.
ine ngobo di thero tangi yo res di tangi di khari cha dorlana darshu di thero tangi yo res
And it will slow down until it stops.
thero do an thama dikhaji re kagu yo res
That is the force story.
di ani tanda shugi ta dung do di cha de res shug da te
So we are going now to try and think about the energy story.
ta tanda ngajo khari gi dung thol samlo tang urlana niba da te samlo tang gu res
In the energy story, I will not talk about forces.
ta nibe dung she du gala di na la ngi shu kor shi ma res
I will only talk about energy.
nibe kor she du gala niba rang kor shi res di dung na
So, what are the objects in this situation? After Stamadis loses contact with the ball, until the ball stops, what are the relevant objects that I need to think about?
ta lagwa di le sa we jela polo di khali gag do di gaga bodu ne dang ji do di la ani ngobo khari samlo shago e khechum chage res
What are the objects in my physical situation?
ta thanda ne dang stu sa di na ngobo khari cha de res ngobo ke je tis ngobo Ngobo khari khari rest thanda dina. The ball.
The ball,
Polo diche ni. Shala. The floor.
the floor,
Khari. Lung air.
and the air. So the ball, the floor, and the air.
Ta ngobo khari chadur lana polo diche, shala diche ani lung di roas.
So then, if I wanted to tell the energy story, I would need a part of the floor on the stage of energy drama to be the ball.
Ta tamju rotyung gugu na ra. Ta dina khari chang gugu lana shala di gugu roas polo di nyam do.
Another part of the floor would be the floor.
Ya shala di thala khari la na chashi tem bai na ya shala chadu roas.
Another part of the floor where we are going to do the play will be the air.
Ta ne shemba dil ta oi na chashi thanda tamju ten sai chi khari chadur lana lung di chai res.
So each one of you is one unit of energy.
Ta kiran zo re nibegi thanda cheshi chik chik chungbi roas.
Objects are going to be regions on the floor.
Ngobo khari chadur lana thanda sai khu thanda yujo ne din zo ra den zo ngobo chabi res.
Regions on the stage.
Ta thanda tamju thapsa gi ta dingcha jora di chabi res di ne den zo ngobo di chadu res.
The third rule is that since you are a unit of energy, you need to tell the rest of us in what form you are in.
Ta kiran zo nibegi cheshi re chungbi ra di chundu gala kiran zo ita niba ri khandi ilani kiran zo shi gugu res.
And you need to have a way to communicate to us what form you are in at all times.
Ta kiran zo nibegi cheshi chadu gala ta niba digi cheshi la ora niba khari ime di ta su ne dang lo shi ra di ga zo kiran zo khari ime di tanda shu nibe rig di ilani kiran zo me ni she gugu res di.
And the fourth rule is if energy moves from object to object, then you need to move from one part of the floor to another part of the floor.
Ta niba di ngobo chik ni ngobo shemba la dugu yo aina an kiran zo khare nibe gi cheshi chadu ra kiran zo ne chik ne shemba la pe gugu res.
So, let me give you an example of energy theater. Bryce and I will do an example of energy theater.
Ta thanda tamju do chik she so nibe di ani pe chun di price the stammers khorang gi tyong gos.
So, you told me that hot things have thermal energy.
Kiran zo khare share la aina ngobo chau den zo la thyo niba yor lan she res.
So, suppose that I want to tell the energy story of a hot cup of coffee that is on the table and gets colder as time goes on.
Ta thanda nibe dung di she wo na ra thanda khari kor la cha yor la na chikja forba na lu sha jo di an thujo khali ma du kal thang ru ra di kor she bai nas.
In that scenario, we can have two objects.
Ta nedang dila an ngonchu ngobo khajur la ngobo ni res.
And that is the coffee
Chik di khari chawol la na chikcha di chayo res.
and the environment.
Chik koryu di roas.
So this will be the region on the floor which is represents the cup with the coffee in it.
Ta ne di do di khari chungyur la oina forba na yuwe chikcha jura di chungyur res.
And the rest of the floor will represent the environment.
Ta ne di member shemba sangma chazang khari chungyur la oina koryu di chungyur res.
So Bryce is going to be one unit of energy, I'm going to be one unit of energy.
Ta Bryce ta stamares khoraniga nube gi seshi re chungyur res.
And we are going to start in the cup.
Ta gochuksa khani gochugi lana forba nanglo ni gochuwe is.
We have to show to you that we are thermal energy.
Ta ngarang zo ikheran zol khari ter la oina nganzo khari chungyur nganzo khari re la oina thyogi ni badi res.
So maybe we will decide to use this sign to indicate that we are thermal energy.
저기 누바레 라이 다시 땡오라 다 디카르타 아르팅거 라와나 먼저 저기 누바 임바타 팅거레스 근데 치와나 저기 누바레스.
Okay? As the coffee cools, 1 unit of thermal energy goes out of the cup into the environment.
다 시자디 탕로 두라 디 저기 갑서 아니 저기 누바기 세시직 포르바니 마치 된루레스.
And that is the end of our energy theater.
딜라도 아니 가서 단다 저기 단다 누베기 땀주디 아니 저레스 잠샤기레스.
Of course, we could do this with 10 people.
단다 코란조 니기 나서 디간조 미추게 치초레스.
And we can use more objects like the cup and the table and the air as separate objects.
ngobo mangbo pyeju chichogres porpache thaganashi chokzeda tende khoryuna yu denzo ngobo mangbo pyeju chichogres.
So some thermal energy units are going to go to the cup. Some of them are going to go to the table. Some of them are going to go to the air.
Nibe seshi jura thögi nibe seshi di khashe kha porbol dugures khashe lungna doyaje khashe chokzega do tende dugures.
So do you understand what we mean by energy theater?
ता थंदा निबेगी तमजो रोलावरा दि क्यांजो सेउ छासुएसा खंडे जिल लगियो टोदांदे.
Initially, we started in the cup. Bryce and I started in the cup to indicate that the cup had a lot of thermal energy.
당보 고속도 브라이스 타스타마더스 코라니 포르바날 데레스 디 카르퉁고 라와이나 포르바날로라 트레이 니바 침부 요아시페레스.
And then later, one of the thermal energy units left the cup and went into the environment.
젤라 카르치르 라와이나 트레이 니베 세시직 포르바니 칠로 던도사 코리나 던레스.
We started with 2 energy units in the cup, and we ended up with 1 energy unit in the cup.
고속도 갈라 트레이 니베 세시니 고속레스 니네 젤 타마델라 세시직 마샤요 마레스.
Because temperature is the indicator of thermal energy, that means that we represented a cup that had a higher temperature in the beginning than at the end.
다 트레이 니베 세시디 니니 직차르나 쳔부니 충루도로 계시고라 디 아니 차르기 니베 디갈 땡이 디 다든싱이 가리차기 라와나 차제 템퍼레처 디 차기요레스 안 당보 고쪽도 갈라 차제 토아체 안젤마 차제 차기 챙기요레스.
So we are going to have you think about the energy theater of the situation with a bowling ball.
다 케란쪽이 네단디 가리갈 삼로 당구구요 라와이나 단다 폴로시다 디갈 삼로 당구요레스.
Stamatis taps on the bowling ball gently.
폴로 데라 칼리지 투구레스 스타마르스 랑바디.
The scenario starts after Stamatis has left the bowling ball.
다 삼로나 셰 네단디 가리니 고추구요 라와이나 스타마르스키 랑바 폴로가 툭 차여 젤라 라고 류라 딜루서여 젤라니 네단디 삼로나 샤구구요레스.
And the scenario stops after the bowling ball has stopped.
아니 카가스 포도 삼로나 샤고르 라고요나 단다 폴로디 요구체 잠 샤고도 가고도 디포도 삼로나 샤고구요레스 네단.
You have to decide how to show the energy story in that scenario.
단 네단 딜라 아니 단다 뉴베기 땀주주아 니 칸데 구구에 메케란스 타주치에레스.
We are going to break into groups of 2 rows.
다 켄조기 단다 루가 수에주라 디 수에두갈라 방림치네 디 니니 수에이스.
Each group will be 2 rows of monks.
다 루가 찍라 가르차기라나 디 니도 방림 니도 니 루가 찍차기요레스.
Each group, we will all go outside and we will do this outside.
디 단다 땀주시다 단다 제고디 칠로라 치에이스 나로 사마 칠로 페레스.
Each group will do their own energy theater.
다 단다 땀주 로시타오다 디 아니 루가 레레네 아니 찍찍찍 타부고요레스.
Each group will have to decide what are the objects in that scenario.
디 나로라 아니 카리 삼로나 샤구고요라나 모보 카리 요메 디 삼로나 샤구고요레스.
What forms of energy are relevant in that scenario?
다 네단 딜라 아니 뉴바 칸디 데와 차기둘라저라 디 삼로나 샤구고요레스.
where to put those forms of energy, those units of energy, in which object,
당고보 하리라 아니 뉴베디 세시디 샤카주 샤고요 메주라 디상마삼노 샤고요레스
and the individual units of energy, where are they going to start and where are they going to end up in that scenario?
때 케란주레레 뉴베 세시 차고라 디 안 당보 고족도 가와요메 가가스요메 아니 타마디타 폴로 잠샤야디 샤고라 디 잠샤두갈 가가스다 칸데스 조당 상마 케란주 타조 시고요레스
So no more than 10 people in a group.
ता रुगा चिक नाला मिचुल हा मासुरो चिस
So you guys are a group?
킨조 주 따다 다 रुगा चिक 차기요레스 디 방림니 다 케란주 रुगा चिक
You
차
guys?
रुगा चिक
You guys?
케란주 रु가 चिक 체
And you guys get to be a small group.
안 रु가 치주 차스 케란주
Okay, so we are going to go outside.
अंगारास चिलो लड्रोनेस निबा खरी खरी योरेस Okay, kinetic, it has kinetic energy.
It has kinetic energy, so some of you need to be, or all of you need to be kinetic energy.
ता गुजो निबा योरेशे रा गुजो निबा योरलादो केरांचु नालोन खाशे याना 차장 गुजो निबा 총구 योरस
What other objects do we have?
ता ngobochik poloshe ra ngobo shemba khari khari yores the floor
The floor. So the floor will be another form of another object on the floor.
ता diladu galo ngobochik khari chagorla na shala dirwas dinala
Stamaris is not part of the
he said
scenario.
yeah one who is pushing he said he's not in the scene
Yeah, not in the scenario. So then, we said that the indicator for kinetic energy is the speed of the ball.
ता ngaju ngone khari share lawaina tanda gujo nuba gi dadun chinge khari cha diore polo di jokse sha yorwas
So then, what is happening to the speed of the ball?
polo di jokse la khari chungu yores jokse la khari chungu yores Thero. Okay, it slows down.
So the speed is
slower,
decreasing.
slower.
It's becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Gyokse di khali ma chungru dugu yorwas gyokse di.
So what does that tell us about the number of units of kinetic energy?
Di ladu wala ta ngazu gyo thanda gujyo gi nuba jora di gi ani seshi jora seshi ma pa baina ke je shewaina seshi di khandes cheges. Gyokse ther dugo ra seshi ga shewaina khandes la tu res.
세시 강시
Ha.
안기 칸을 보면
So we can represent it with numbers.
So how many monks are going to be kinetic energy in the ball to start with?
Ta polo jura polo di gujo nuba yo res lara dilan seshi digas ta jose digas yore la jura khaju pusho khaju di chige isa peju chige isa dina kela itwa link ke de pavo
세시 차오라 지에데 되는 마디라
so I'm going to tell about the units so we will act and show it to you.
Okay. What object is this? What object is this?
Aleta gela keran zo thabgin lara sangma del shus ya shansa dingobo hari resa la okay they represent the ball
And what object is this?
ani dik hari resa so this is the way in which the ball is rolling, this is the floor on which the ball is rolling.
So the ball is there and the ground is here.
That this di ladu gala polo di ruas ani shala di ruas. Yes.
Okay. What form of energy are each one of you?
The keranzo rere nube seshi chungu yora nube rig khandi yisa keranzo nube rig jora nube rig mangbu da ondi khandi chungu yesa Gujo nuba kinetic energy.
Kinetic energy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 units of kinetic energy.
다 구조 누바 줘라 세시 가져라나 게요로스 제레르 춘겨라
근데 너 다르슈지로 다르슈 테사지로 틱틱 두디 담가지 방금 또 온다 리는 머리를 비고 머리를 비니 아니 분디
How will you show us that you are kinetic energy?
다 케란소라 구조 누바 이 라두갈 칸데스 춘게 이스 칸데스 트웬 이스 구조 누바레 라와나
토마 코로 구슈지로 토마 구슈 나노니 다르슈 레레테드 아니 구슈 레레 냐오로
So when the ball starts to move, like when they step ahead, so one of the person will go out from the scenario. So which means that because of frictional force, like 1 unit of energy is decreasing.
So, but how will the rest of us know that you are kinetic energy and not another form of energy? You need to show us.
다 키란소 니니 겔라 코란소 이때서 트웨기 슈 임바이나 근데 신이 뚱이 인스페이션 샤사 다 켄조 요구기 슈 구조 뉴바디 인스 시고라 구조 뉴바 임바이나 칸데스 뚱게 인스
So this is kinetic energy. This means kinetic energy.
다 콤바잖아 아니 다 구조 뉴바 시고라 yes
Okay.
so we will start moving
Is there kinetic energy on the ground? Does the ground have kinetic energy?
다 디사 디 로사 디 샬라라 샬라딜라 구조 뉴바 요르스 란티오리스 샬라딜라 구조 뉴바 요르스 no it has
not.
it has no kinetic energy
So no kinetic energy monks in the ground.
다 사이 나로라 아니 구조 뉴바 체 요 마라스 쿠쇼 델 쿠쇼 체 요 마라스 샬라딜라 no
Okay? So then show us the energy theater.
다 케란스 땀주 타에 줘라 탑도인데 나로 체스 때로 체스 He wants after each step he wants one person to go out. He's telling them. So there's only one left. So we are all left. That's why only one person, one is left. So which means there is less energy there. So energy has decreased.
Energy decreased. There were 8 and now we are 7. But you told me that there is no kinetic energy on the ground.
There is energy from the ground which is frictional energy.
So do we need a new form of energy to call it frictional energy?
Yes, there should be. He's saying no. Most of them are saying yes, we need frictional energy. Because if there is no frictional energy, we will slip. So he's saying like you said, like we have already talked about force. Now we have to talk about energy only.
So right now, the only things that you can be are the forms of energy that we talked about, or new forms of energy that we are going to invent.
So we consider force as energy.
But we said force is pushing and pulling.
Yes.
And I do not have force, he does not have force. We do not possess force.
ngala shuk yore keran la shuk yore di lagi yo mares
Mare te mare.
shuk dingi da ware la jore di yo mares
But we possess energy.
ine ngazu nuba di ngala nuba yo koran la nuba yo lan la yo res
So force and energy cannot be the same thing.
cheza shuk da nuba ni chik yong si mares ngala nuba yo la tu res ngobo di la nuba yo res ngobo di la shuk yo re lag mares So does it mean that when two objects pulls each other, the force is zero? So does it mean that? Tenshu khandi line begela. Phasu themba na ani shuk lego re line ba dires.
Matuko pena phasu ngu ni chebaina cheshu kiba chena yo dambi ge ni tikatse cheresena lego ron cha.
So when two objects interacts with each other with equal forces, so the net force is zero. So is it that what you want to convey?
No?
Maresa.
No.
Maresa.
The net force need not be zero on either one of us.
Ta thanda dendis chyo gap sura. Thanda zangshu jura. Ta waina kirani ga lego mesi roas thanda di.
The force that he is exerting on me will always be equal to the force that I am exerting on him.
Ta thanda dingi ta waina kirangi stomatis la shu khaju gyawadi. Stomatis kiran la shu gyaw jura. Chikpa chiki khatu ina chikpa chiki kyang res.
These forces are equal because they are third law force pairs.
Di shuk yin di khari cha diyor la na chikpa chiki kyang cha diyor res. Khain sana Newton ki tendim sumba la shu ki cha yo di cha diyor res dingi.
But the net force on him was not zero.
Ine ta tenso tendu gala zangshuk juya. Korang gal zangshuk di legor yo ma res.
Because the net force involves only forces that are exerted on him, not forces that he exerts on me.
Zangshuk jura di tadu gala shuk di keran la khaju gya me shuk keran la gya jura di rang tagi yores. Keran gi pola di stomatis la shuk gya tagi yo ma res. Keran gal shuk khagas gya me zangshuk jura di tagi yores.
He moved not because I pulled on him harder than he was pulling on me,
Keran yogu che jura di ngi gi the shuk che thani ma res. Shuk ta wa na keran ni. Korang gi che the shuk che wa gya la jura di chagi yo ma res.
he moved because I pulled on him harder than the floor pulled on him the other direction.
Keran le shuk che wa gya yo ma res. Khari le shuk che wa gya la wa na sai thanda the shuk di sai thanda darshuk jura darshuk dila ani stomatis ki shuk che dil dur wa na di shuk che the res. Che zang keran su le res.
So that is the Shuk story.
Ta di shuk gi dung di res.
But now we need to say the energy story.
Ta thanda nga zo nube dung di kala samlo tang gu thanang chi gu res.
So what, as you were walking earlier, you were energy, kinetic energy,
Keran zo ngoni khomba jani phe imba. Di gya du kala keran zo nuba di khari cha diyor la na gu yo nuba yin share was.
but you told me that the ground has no kinetic energy because it is not moving.
Keran zo khari share la na sa shala juda di la gu yo nuba yo mares. Khari chino yo mar la na shala di gu yo tang mundus la was.
So we need to think about this over coffee break, over tea break, and we need to come back.
Ta jela soja parsing kala samlo ta inda sa di jela ni rangja yo is.